The Ferris wheel lurched once, groaned loudly, and then stopped high above the glowing fairgrounds. The cheerful music below suddenly felt impossibly far away, and before I could even process what had happened, the girl I had secretly admired all through high school completely froze. Her hands trembled, tears filled her eyes, and in one desperate moment of fear, she climbed into my lap, wrapped both arms tightly around me, and held on as if I were the only thing keeping her safe. I never imagined that the longest 15 minutes of my life would change the next 15 years forever. If stories about kindness, hope, forgiveness, compassion, and second chances mean something to you, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone you care about, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to the channel so you never miss another heartfelt story. My name is Nathan, and this happened during the final weeks of senior year in Cedar Ridge, Ohio. Everyone seemed excited about graduation, college plans, and the endless possibilities waiting beyond our small town. I was excited too, but there was one thing I had carried quietly for 4 years. My feelings for Rachel had never disappeared. She was kind without trying to impress anyone, volunteered at church food drives every weekend, and somehow remembered everyone's birthday. We had shared classes, worked together on history projects, and laughed over cafeteria food that never tasted very good, yet I had never found the courage to tell her how much she meant to me. Our school organized a spring carnival to celebrate the graduating class. Friends scattered between food stands, games, and live music while the sunset painted the sky with warm shades of orange and pink. When Rachel asked if I wanted to ride the Ferris wheel because she hated riding alone, I tried to hide how happy I was. It felt like the opportunity one had imagined 100 different times. Everything seemed perfect until the ride stopped near the very top. At first, everyone laughed, assuming it would start moving again. Then the silence stretched longer. Rachel's breathing became faster. She confessed she had always been terrified of heights after getting trapped on a ski lift as a little girl. The memories came rushing back all at once. Her fear overwhelmed her, and before she realized what she was doing, she moved closer until she was sitting in my lap, holding me tightly with her face buried against my shoulder. I could feel how frightened she was, so instead of telling her everything would be fine, I simply stayed calm. I talked about ordinary things. I reminded her of our favorite teachers, the ridiculous school mascot, the terrible cafeteria pizza we always joked about, and the dream she once shared about becoming a pediatric nurse. Slowly her breathing matched mine. The panic that had filled those frightening moments began to soften. High above the carnival lights, with the wind gently moving the Ferris wheel, we discovered something more important than romance. We discovered trust. When the ride finally started again and reached the ground, Rachel stepped away with embarrassed tears in her eyes. She apologized repeatedly, convinced she had made everything awkward. I simply smiled and told her there was nothing to apologize for. Everyone needs someone to lean on sometimes. That evening ended with a quiet walk to the parking lot, but neither of us realized how important those few minutes had become. Life moved quickly after graduation. Rachel left for nursing school in Tennessee while I attended a university in Michigan to study engineering. Distance slowly replaced daily conversations. Birthdays became short messages. Holidays turned into brief updates. Eventually, even those became rare. I often wondered whether I had missed my chance forever, but I believed some people enter our lives to teach us something, even if they don't stay. Nearly 8 years later, my mother was admitted to a hospital after a routine surgery. As I hurried through the hallways carrying flowers, I heard a familiar voice calling my name. I turned around and saw Rachel wearing blue nursing scrubs. Time had changed many things, but her warm smile was exactly the same. She had become the compassionate nurse she always dreamed of becoming. Watching her care for frightened patients with endless patience reminded me why I had admired her in high school. She comforted worried families, encouraged elderly patients, and somehow made every room feel less frightening. During breaks, we talked about everything life had brought us. She admitted that the Ferris wheel had become one of her most unforgettable memories because it taught her that real strength isn't pretending to be fearless. Sometimes strength is allowing yourself to trust someone else. As my mother's recovery continued, Rachel and I spent more time together outside the hospital. We visited parks, attended community concerts, and volunteered at weekend charity events just like she used to do years earlier. Our friendship grew naturally into something deeper, built not on dramatic moments, but on consistency, kindness, and shared values. One evening we returned to the same carnival where our story had quietly begun. The Ferris wheel stood against the evening sky, glowing with thousands of tiny lights. Rachel looked at it, smiled nervously, and surprised me by buying 2 tickets. This time, as our seat climbed higher and higher, she reached for my hand instead of hiding from the view. The wheel stopped briefly again while passengers unloaded below. She laughed instead of panicking. She looked out across the town and said that fear no longer controlled her because someone had once shown her what safety felt like. If this story has touched your heart, please support the video by liking it, sharing it with someone who needs encouragement, and subscribing so more people can hear stories that remind us hope is always worth holding on to. Before this story ends, we'd love to hear from you. Please leave a comment and tell us about someone whose kindness changed your life when you needed it most. A year later, surrounded by family, friends, and the people who had supported us through every season of life, Rachel and I were married in a small church just outside Cedar Ridge. During our reception, our photographer asked where we wanted our first special photo together as husband and wife. Without saying a word, we both looked toward the Ferris wheel standing in the distance at the county fair. It had once been the place where fear took over, but it had also become the place where trust quietly began. Sometimes love doesn't arrive with perfect timing or grand speeches. Sometimes it begins in an unexpected moment when one frightened heart discovers another heart willing to carry its weight, proving that kindness, patience, and second chances can turn even our most fearful memories into the beginning of our greatest blessings.